Happy Extreme Rules weekend, everyone. What's going on? Happy Friday afternoon or Friday evening, depending on where you live, to each and every one of you. Glad you're here. Sorry for coming up an hour earlier than scheduled, but I had a last-minute change at work, and I need to be there a little bit earlier, so I had to bump this live stream up a little bit earlier than expected, and I gave you guys not much of a notice on that. So those of you who are already here waiting in the chat, appreciate you guys always staying tuned for any sort of changes that might happen. But we are here today to discuss tomorrow's Extreme Rules pay-per-view. 6-match card looks very, very good. No Roman on the show, but yet I think the card is equally as exciting as if he would have been on the show. So I'm ready for tomorrow. It's going to be a good one, and we'll see tonight on Smackdown if they add any last-minute matches. They could, but we're going to go ahead and predict what is scheduled or advertised right now on WWE.com. Also, some news and notes to get into. We got big WWE announced team shakeups that will begin this week because all of the shows are undergoing their season premieres. And we've got some new commentary teams for SmackDown, Raw, and NXT, and the two-man booths are back, which I think is fantastic, and the return of Kathy Kelly, which absolutely warms my heart. So we'll be getting into that. We'll also talk about the latest on the Sammy Guevara and Andrade drama going on currently in AEW, and the latest on Brawl Out. Meltzer did provide a little bit of an update on the investigation currently ongoing in AEW. Also, some news regarding Saraya. Apparently, she's been cleared by AEW's doc, so we'll talk about that. Speaking of docs, Vince McMahon's Vice documentary is set to air on October 18th, Tuesday night, so that's going to be looking good. We will get into that later as well, and we will do just a quick preview of tonight's SmackDown. A absent and injured star rumored to be returning tonight. Big Intercontinental title match on tap for tonight as well, along with Logan Paul and Roman Reigns face-to-face. Kind of interesting that they're going to have a face-to-face segment here when neither one of them have anything to do with the pay-per-view tomorrow. So I think if I'm WWE, if I'm Triple H, I'm booking this Logan Paul and Roman Reigns shit to open the show. You know, like, you don't want that to be the lasting image you see before SmackDown goes off the air, because what's the incentive to tune into the pay-per-view tomorrow? Neither one of those guys are on it. So I think Logan and Roman should open up, and then whatever the final segment is here should be Gunther and Sheamus, or maybe something involving McIntyre and Karrion Kross, or something like that. That's the way I'd book it, but we will see what they do tonight on SmackDown. We also have AEW Rampage and Battle of the Belts coming up tonight as well, which we might preview a little bit. And then, of course, we will predict all 6 matches on Extreme Rules for tomorrow. Each one of them a stipulation match, which is nice, and I've got all my winners pretty much picked, and whether or not we're going to see the White Rabbit. All that to be answered tomorrow night, and we will speculate, predict, and, just try to shoot the shit, try to figure out what the heck we are going to see tomorrow at Extreme Rules, and it should be pretty fun. So, during all of that chatter, hopefully you guys have hit the like button, subscribed if you are not yet already. Good to see everyone in here. Want to welcome the channel members first. Red Raven Rucker, Nick Musser, Chaz Medeiros, Isaac, Steven Taylor in the house. Good to see you. Luke McAllister chiming in with $5. Hey, Greg, hope you're well. Hopefully AEW can get their ducks in a row. They're sorely needed as a viable alternative. I don't have any fear that AEW is going anywhere. But yeah, they need to be an alternative, and they need to be a strong alternative. So all of this turmoil and drama, hopefully, they can turn the corner on that, because we've seen WWE do it. There was a time not very long ago, just a matter of months ago, where WWE was a goddamn joke. Now look at them. So it can easily happen. So there's ebbs and flows, and that's the way life goes. And I would definitely hope, as you do, Luke, that AEW gets their act together real soon, because we need them. We need them to be strong, and we need them to be thriving. Otherwise, the business gets stale and monopolized real quick. We all know that. Good to see Deshaun Robinson as well. Danny Allmark and How Wheezy rounding out all the channel members. We got Devlin Husband in the house as well. Hassan Ben, Jay Lambo, David Brown. Good to see you as well. Tough Carter, Sam, Matt Hendricks. Good to see you. Power Spin. We got Lil Justin. We got JL. Anybody else that happens to be here. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Knox, you too. And welcome. And please, thumbs up that like button. I would appreciate it. This should be a stream that should go, I don't know, about an hour, maybe a little bit more, because we do have some news and notes to get into before we start discussing the Extreme Rules card. But I think we should start with the WWE Raw, SmackDown, and NXT commentary teams upcoming. Now, all of the news we're going to discuss here is very, very good news, except for one little piece of bad news, and that is Jimmy Smith has been released by WWE. It came to light yesterday that he was gone from the company. A few reports said he was gone, and they named the changes to the announce teams kind of in conjunction with that. But it was kind of not known if Jimmy had left or he had been released. Apparently, he was flat out released, which I think sucks because I think Jimmy Smith did a great job. He replaced, what was his name? Adnan Virk, who was terrible. Everybody liked him. It's just he just didn't fit. It just wasn't a good fit. And for Jimmy Smith to come in, and I remember the very first week he was on Raw, I tweeted out several times how easy of a transition he was. I'm like, you barely even know he's there. You know, he's just doing his job, calling the matches. Yeah, he doesn't really stand out like Mauro Ranallo or whatnot, but he's doing, I think, an excellent job of calling the action in the ring, telling the stories, and just being that play-by-play guy that WWE needs. I thought he was an excellent replacement or an excellent addition to the team. So a little bit sad that he was released because I really liked him. I thought he did well. He actually did say on his podcast, I believe today or yesterday, that Triple H actually told him he was going to be released by accident last Monday on Raw. So he basically said that there was something going on with Daniel Cormier and Riddle and Rollins, and he had questions if Riddle and DC had some beef, and he approached Riddle about it, and Riddle's like, oh, no, man, we're cool. Maybe he's mad at me because I out-wrestled John Jones years ago or something like that. And Jimmy said he took this information to Triple H and said, hey, on the pay-per-view on Saturday, is it okay if I bring this up that Riddle had mentioned? And Triple H said something like, oh, yeah, just pass it along to Michael Cole. And Jimmy was like, well, I'm calling the match on Saturday. Why would I pass it along to Michael? Oh, shit. And so it kind of dawned on him prior to Monday that he was probably going to get released. And then on Tuesday, Michael Cole apparently made the call to him to let him go. So that's a shame because I really, really liked Jimmy Smith. Thought he did a great job. I think he's going to be fine in whatever he goes on to do. I saw a really interesting story, which I'm not sure how much stock to take in, so I'm not even going to mention it. But whatever he chooses to do beyond WWE, we just wish him the best because I thought he was a great WWE Raw commentator and did a great job in the announce booth for WWE. So all the best to him. But with bad news comes some good news. Kathy Kelly is heading back to the WWE as well. She's going to be a backstage interviewer on Monday Night Raw. So basically back to her old job, and she might be on a few panels here and there as well. But after she left a couple of years ago, I thought that was really sad because she was really, really well liked. She had a great relationship with the Undisputed Era in NXT, and she was just an absolute angel. So I'm glad that Kathy Kelly is back. It's going to be good to see her again, and that's very, very good news. But in terms of who's going to be announcing what shows, here's what WWE has changed. On Raw, it's going to be a two-man booth, and it's going to be it's going to be Kevin Patrick, who's been promoted now to play-by-play guy on Raw, and Corey Graves. So Byron Saxton has been cast aside. Byron Saxton is now also going to be a backstage interviewer, at least on Monday Night Raw, maybe SmackDown as well, but I think Raw is what he is slated to do. And I guess that's a shame for him. It's maybe a demotion for him, but a promotion for Kevin Patrick. And I like the two-man booth better. I think it's much better. It's a lot less stepping on each other's toes, talking over each other. You can develop, some good chemistry between your two guys. Although in WWE, I argue that you don't really have time to get any chemistry going because once you do, WWE switches shit up again anyway, where Lawler and King seemed like they were together for quite a long time before they finally moved things around, before finally putting them back together. So I feel like in today's day and age, you don't really have two announcers that can really develop that much of a rapport together because of how quickly everything changes. But it'll be interesting to see how Kevin Patrick does in this format. He's got Graves with him. Graves can go back to being the primary color guy, the Jesse Ventura, if you will, and we'll see how the two of them function together because if it doesn't click, they might have to change something again. SmackDown has also gotten a bit of an upgrade. Back to the two-man booth, of course. I think they were already doing that with Cole and Graves, but Michael Cole is now going to be teaming up with Wade Barrett, who has been bumped up from NXT. So Wade Barrett is now going to be a SmackDown announcer. I think that's awesome. I think it would be even more awesome if one day Barrett got himself back in the ring. He's clear. I don't think he's prevented from wrestling or hasn't been cleared or has any injuries that I know of, but I could be wrong about that. But who knows? With him now being a play-by-play guy on SmackDown, maybe that could plant some seeds for some sort of an in-ring return for him in the future. I don't know, but he seems to be very happy doing what he's doing in the announce booth, and best of luck to him. Cole and Barrett now on SmackDown. That's awesome. Backstage, we're going to have Kayla Braxton, Samantha Irving, and the blonde woman. I forget her name. Misty Carmichael, I call her. So they will be your kind of a backstage team there on SmackDown. And then NXT has moved Booker T to their color spot to call NXT with Vic Joseph. Vic Joseph is fantastic. We all like him. Booker T, I don't know. NXT, I was really never into the splashy paint nonsense. Now they've kind of gone back to the black and gold-ish. I did watch last Tuesday with the new set. It all looked very good, but it still felt not like the NXT of old, and it still very much resembled NXT 2.0. And I didn't really like the show, to be honest. I'm going to try to watch NXT when I can, but I watched last Tuesday, and I didn't like it. It's not for me. It's just not for me. So I'm sure there will be some episodes of NXT that I will watch. I know they got Halloween Havoc coming up, and they might do some good things here or there, but I just don't know how much of the show I'm going to be able to watch, to be honest. And now that Booker T is on commentary, he's going to make that show even less watchable, because I love Booker T, but I hate when he talks. And he's just annoying and obnoxious and kind of funny, but also not. And I don't know what that's going to mean for NXT, but it does put a Hall of Fame presence in the NXT environment. I don't know how often or how long the talents or the announcers hang around backstage before the show and whatnot. So Booker T being a part of NXT, I guess is good, but I don't know what he's going to really add to the show. You know what I mean? And if we had any hopes of one day seeing the return of Nigel McGuinness to the NXT brand, you can kiss those hopes goodbye, because he has also been released by WWE, which is a shame, because I always liked Nigel as well, and I thought he was an excellent commentator. And, of course, we didn't see him, I don't think, after the pandemic, and was hoping that he would find his way back to the company at some point. But it looks like he has been released as well. So all the best to Nigel McGuinness, all the best to Jimmy Smith. Really sorry that we have to see them go. But I think overall, the announced teams, like I said, maybe not on NXT, but the announced teams in WWE, I think, are getting a little bit of an upgrade. And the 2-man booths, I think, are much better than the 3 and the 4 and sometimes the 8-man booths that you see in AEW. So that's the latest there with the WWE announced team shakeups. And I guess that will take effect on tonight's SmackDown, right? That should be going into effect tonight, although it might not be. I didn't catch the news on that, but I'm guessing that it's going to be Michael Cole and Barrett tonight on SmackDown. If not, that should take effect next week. But no, it will, because I believe tonight, they are touting tonight as the season premiere of SmackDown. So that will definitely take effect tonight, and then the Raw announced teams will take effect on Monday night. So that's what we have to look forward to in terms of some of the changes in WWE. And along with these announced team changes, I'm really, really hoping that tonight on SmackDown, perhaps, and definitely Monday night on Raw, we see some sort of a set change. I know it might not be a major set change, because I think if WWE was planning anything major, it would have already been leaked and we would have known about it by now. And I know the current set that they're using is kind of new as it is. It's not exactly old, so I don't even know if they're really going to upgrade anything from that standpoint. But for me as a fan, it would be just excellent if Raw and SmackDown had different vibes. Even when SmackDown first started, even though it was the stage and the Tron, it was an oval Tron instead of a square one. And then they transitioned into the big fist and the 2 screens on the side instead of the one big one on Raw. Even though it's largely the same, it still has enough differences to it where it felt like 2 different shows. And now in WWE, I understand it's cost effective to do things the way they do, but I really also think it's incredibly lazy to have 2 shows that are supposed to have different identities, but the only thing that makes them different is you change the color of the lights. And I just think that's fucking dumb. So I would love to see a little bit more originality in the Raw and SmackDown sets. I would love a new Raw theme music change. I do not like their current theme music at all. I'm not necessarily set on needing a hard rock or metal theme. I don't give a shit. You can totally have a hip-hop Raw theme. Just make it a good one. I just don't like the song they're currently using, and I would love for some sort of a... Remember back in the day when like the Raw intro would like get you hyped for the show? You don't feel that now at all. I don't watch the intro to Raw. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I just need that. I need just a better look, a better intro lead into the show, a better song, definitely a better look and set and vibe to the show. All that stuff would really, really help me as a fan enjoy watching these shows even more. So we'll see if they do make any changes to these sets, but I'm not really holding my breath on that. I was at the first ever Smackdown on Fox in LA a couple years ago when Brock beat Kofi. And that set was kind of interesting. Remember they had all those like parentheses looking things or brackets on the side of, on either side of the entranceway there. Even something like that might be nice. Just give the two shows some sort of a different vibe. So we'll see if they do anything on SmackDown tonight. But like I said, I ain't holding my breath. Along with those new set designs, which I really hope we get to see at some point, would love some new championship belts. We've heard the rumors that Triple H does have some championship belt redesigns in the works. We could see those debut very, very soon on TV. Maybe even tonight. Like I said, it's the season premiere. But again, I'm not holding my breath on that. I think maybe they should just unveil all the new titles on one show, and because it's not like SmackDown and Raw guys are exclusive to their brand anymore, the guys and gals bump and jump shows all the time, so you could just do a big Raw segment where you unveil all these championship belts. But again, I think we'd hear some rumors of that, or WWE would have something like that advertised by now, and we've heard nothing. So I'm not going to hold my breath on the set changes or the championship belts yet, but I would like to see those come in the future, if at all possible. What do you guys think? Before we get into the latest on Sammy and Andrade, let me just cruise over here to the chat, do any more welcomes, and knock out any more super chats that we've got coming. Let's see. George Morris. George, good to see you. Appreciate the $5 as always. Hey, Greg, how are you doing, and how are your cats? I just received in the mail WWE SummerSlam Anthology. Do you have it? Hopefully no edits. Be safe. SummerSlam Anthology. So I don't know when that came out. There's going to be some edits to that, I'm sure, but nothing like what we see on Peacock. Of course, I'm doing well. Cats are doing well, as always, George. Appreciate that. I do not have the SummerSlam Anthology. However, I have every single SummerSlam on VHS. I collect those. I do have a few SummerSlams on DVD, like a few scattered ones, but I've never bought the box set because I never needed to. I have each and every SummerSlam for as long as they made DVDs. VHS is on VHS, and then every single year I ordered it on pay-per-view and taped it. So I had multiple copies of every single SummerSlam, and really had no need to buy the anthology set other than for collectible purposes. So I never have picked one up, but I have seen them before, and I think one or two of my SummerSlam, one or two of my SummerSlam DVDs came from an anthology set just based on the spine of the DVD when I picked them up randomly in eBay lots or whatnot. So glad you got the SummerSlam Anthology. That should keep you busy for the weekend. As always, George, I want to thank you and appreciate your super chat as always. Devlin Husband has officially joined the family. You did let me know you were going to move from Patreon over to the YouTube memberships. Glad you're here, dude. I think I owe you some Cobra Kai messages too. It's been a crazy day, but Devlin's my boy from Hawaii. I was on the Jericho cruise with him a couple of years ago, and he's been stationed there for a while, but he's headed back to the mainland here pretty soon, aren't you, man? And I know you're ready to get out of there. Thanks for joining. By the way, if you'd like to become a member, you can do so by clicking the join button right below this video or down in the description. There's a link that'll take you over to the membership page as well, where you can join, and I am going to be setting up a members-only watch-along for this month. We'll put up a post soon, let you guys decide on that, and we'll try to schedule something maybe for like a week from today, 2 weeks from today, something like that. We'll be up here doing a members-only watch-along. Terry Allen Jr., appreciate the $2, dude. You've retracted your message, but whatever you said, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. Let me see. Mongolian Chop, I'm not sure if I got you earlier. Good to see you. Stephen Harris, Mohammed. Ben, did I get you earlier as well? And Terry Allen Jr. with $2.30 more. Nigel, we will miss you. Could have assisted the future. He could have. Definitely could have. Yeah, it's a shame we lost Nigel. I was always a big Nigel fan. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the latest on Sammy Guevara and Andrade. Of course, we were watching AEW Dynamite live together on Wednesday when all of this shit was happening. I think it was in the opening match with MJF when we started hearing MJF and Wheeler Yuta, when we started hearing the reports that there was actually a fight. TMZ broke the story first, reported that Andrade had been sent home. And for a while there, I guess I misread the story, but I was thinking they were both sent home. And a lot of fans really weren't sure what was going on. And then, Fightful had confirmed the story and Meltzer had confirmed the story. And they're like, no, there was definitely some sort of an altercation that took place backstage. And then a few minutes later, we see Sammy Guevara in the Jericho Appreciation Society promo. And of course, he is in the tag team main event later on that night. So when the fans saw Sammy, of course, their heads exploded and immediately thought that this is some sort of crazy favoritism. And Tony Khan sent Andrade home and is punishing him, but Sammy gets off scot-free, and this is fucking bullshit, and blah, blah, blah. And the whole time this is happening, and I'm like, am I the only one that thinks that that doesn't make any sense? I know the fans are just predisposed. They are just determined to hate Sammy Guevara at all costs. And I was the first one to say on the stream, I'm like, look, I know based on what we read between these two, the beef on Twitter, that Sammy Guevara is definitely acting immature. So is Andrade for that matter. And we've heard about Sammy's reputation and how some people just want to slap the shit out of him. I'm not saying Sammy Guevara does not have those qualities to him, but in this specific situation, why would he be allowed just to stay there? If there was some big fight and they're throwing punches, explain to me as a fan, put your hatred for Sammy Guevara aside and try to look at this logically. Explain to me why Tony Khan, after All Out, would strip his world champion, would strip and suspend his world champion and 3 executives. If he's willing to do that and completely undo everything that was just done at the pay-per-view a couple of nights before, crowning a new world champion, crowning trios champions, the 3 guys that helped start your company and the guy that you are going to, and you've publicly stated you want to build the company around, you strip and suspend all of them, but yet Sammy Guevara is somehow above this type of thing. Why? Because Tony Khan danced with him at his wedding? Is that how obtuse you are to think that Sammy Guevara would just somehow be above all of this? And I think that's when the fans really have to separate what they want to be true from what actually is true. And I was saying all night long on the stream, I'm like, I'm not defending Sammy. In most cases, I would never defend Sammy, but you have to look at the evidence here. Andrade got sent home. Sammy did not. Why do you think that is? Why does your brain automatically go to the only reason Sammy is there is because Tony Khan loves him and it's favoritism? Maybe Sammy didn't do anything. I mean, at least in the altercation, we know what Sammy was guilty of in terms of his tweets because we read those tweets. But in terms of backstage, I can totally see Andrade, who already clearly wants to leave and go back to WWE, showing up and saying, I'm going to beat the shit out of Sammy with the hopes that this will get me fired. And I was like, I think we need to wait and hear what the report starts saying when all of the eyewitness accounts start coming in. Once you start hearing multiple accounts, they should start matching up in terms of what actually happened. And sure enough, as we read yesterday, it turns out that Andrade was the aggressor in this situation. Both guys apparently were talked to prior to the confrontation and said there's not going to be any fighting. Both guys assured them that there wouldn't be, but Andrade didn't listen. He was the aggressor. He was trying to fight Sammy. Sammy was trying to avoid the fight. Sammy might have shoved him, but Andrade definitely threw a couple of punches. And that was kind of exactly what we speculated on Wednesday night. I even put a whole mic drop up on this because I was looking at the situation. I'm like, why would Sammy be there? Why would he let Sammy be there? If he was willing to strip CM Punk, the Bucks, and Kenny and suspend them all, why would he not be willing to do that for Sammy Guevara? It makes no sense, even though the fans really, really want to believe that Tony Khan is showing some sort of favoritism to Sammy Guevara. It's just not true. And that's what I was trying to say on the stream. I'm like, I think we need to wait until tomorrow to find out this story, because the only thing that makes sense to me, the only reason Sammy not only would still be on the show, but still compete in the main event and get the win. Don't forget, he got the pin too. He scored the victory for his team. The only way any of that makes sense is if Andrade attacked him. And that's the only way this would make sense. Otherwise, it looks really fucked up and really bad. And then sure enough, a few hours pass. The next day, we start learning that from multiple accounts that Andrade was the aggressor in this. And I don't know why fans refuse to believe this. It's perfectly plausible to me. Andrade even said as much on Twitter. I'll see you on Wednesday, and I'll tell it to your face then, asshole. He definitely seems disgruntled. He certainly gives zero fucks. We know the type of personality Andrade has. This is not something that's, would be out of the realm of possibility for him. Everything makes sense. An angry, pissed off, I want out of this company Andrade showing up to Dynamite and being the aggressor in an altercation with Sammy Guevara, guess what? Makes perfect fucking goddamn sense. And that's why I believe I said on Wednesday why we were seeing Sammy Guevara in that main event. And I do think it's funny that Tony Khan had him win. I'm not even sure if that was the original plan. Maybe they just wanted to kind of lean in and just throw gasoline on this already raging inferno and just have people talking more and get Sammy even more heat. But in this particular situation, I know we all love to hate Sammy Guevara, but maybe in this particular situation, outside of the immature behavior and the tweeting and the nonsense that the two of them were saying to each other prior to this, in terms of what happened on Dynamite, sounds like Sammy didn't want to ruin a good thing that he's got going. He's got a good position in the company. He's in good with the boss. Why would Sammy want to be throwing hands in a fight that he probably cannot win? I mean, if he straight up squares up with Andrade and there's nobody around to break it up, I think Andrade's going to fuck him up. So it's just not something that I think Sammy would want to do or need to do. And you don't want to bash up that pretty face. That way Ty Mello's got to be making out with a big old plate of mangled ground beef. You don't want that. So I always thought it was in Sammy's best interest to avoid this fight at all cost. Sounds like that's what he did. Andrade was determined to fight, and they suspended or sent home accordingly. Now, apparently, according to one report, Andrade was told, you are not going to be fired if you attack him or try to do something to get fired. So he was just sent home. I don't know what Tony Khan feels about this, what his demeanor is, if he's pissed off at Andrade, and now Andrade has found himself in a position where now you've pissed off your boss. He might have been willing to release you after things settled down, but now that you've done this, he might just be pissed and want to keep you at home and hold you hostage, basically. So hopefully Andrade hasn't made his situation worse. I really hope he hasn't, because if Andrade wants out of AEW and wants to go back to WWE, guess what? That's what I want for him. If that's where he wants to be, I would never criticize a man for wanting to go work with his wife, but then again, he did sign that deal with AEW, so, he has to at least be held somewhat to that. But I don't blame anybody for deciding for their own future, for their own lives, that somewhere else might be better for them. And very rarely am I going to advocate for standing in the way of that and making that an obstacle. But in certain situations, you shouldn't just be able to go punch your way out of a wrestling promotion, because what message does that send? If Tony Khan grants Andrade a release, then everybody's going to say, I'll just go start fights with people or whatever. So I think Tony Khan's got a decision to make. I wouldn't want to be in this situation, because either way, you're probably going to look like a schmuck. And we'll have to see what the future holds for Andrade, or how much more he's going to run his mouth. If Tony Khan decides not to release him, all that's going to do is anger Andrade more. He'll probably be even more mouthy on Twitter, and who knows if he'll get along with anybody backstage. According to Meltzer, there's at least 3 guys that want out of AEW, and we just know that Andrade is one of them. But in terms of what took place between him and Sammy, as we kind of speculated and assumed, this was never really that much in question with me on Wednesday, just based on what we were seeing. But in my mind, I'm like, well, this probably was a situation where Andrade was the aggressor, because it just makes no sense for him to be sent home and Sammy to not be sent home. Maybe if the all-out stuff hadn't happened, if that whole CM Punk and Elite fight never happened, then this might be a little fishier. But given what Tony Khan did to those 4 gentlemen, those 4 huge pieces of the company, each one of those men have a higher spot on the card than Sammy Guevara. So why would he do that to them and pardon Sammy? Makes no sense. So like I said, sometimes what the fans want to believe, they want to believe that Sammy is a cancer and Tony Khan shows him endless favoritism. That's what they want to believe. Unfortunately, what you want and what's true are usually 2 different things, especially when you already have predisposed hate floating around your skull, like most people do for Sammy Guevara. But all of that Sammy defending aside, I'm not debating that he might be an obnoxious, immature prick from time to time. We've heard that from multiple sources, from multiple accounts. I'm not disputing whether or not Sammy Guevara can rub people the wrong way. I'm certain that he can. I've met Sammy. I like Sammy, but I have no doubt in my mind that he can probably come off unfavorable, I guess, to peers or people in the locker room just due to his attitude, his immaturity, his cockiness, whatever it is about him that people don't like. I'm not debating that. All I'm debating is what people probably want to be true about what took place on Dynamite. So we will monitor the situation, see what the latest is with Andrade, if we get any news on him, if he is actually let go from his contract, or if Tony Khan is pissed and just wants to make him sit at home and punish him as best he can before finally maybe caving in and releasing him. I don't know. Really don't know. But like I said the other day on the podcast, when it comes to releases, I think it needs to be a case-by-case basis. Sure, you can send out and make a big, blanket statement or about how you're not going to grant any releases, but I think if the right situation comes along, then you need to at least look at those options and explore all options, even if that option is being released. So we will see what happens with Andrade. We will keep our eye on that. There is also a little bit of news regarding All Out and Scrumgate and the big brawl going on there. We haven't heard much or many new reports about the status of CM Punk or the Elite, when they might be back on TV, what the status of their suspensions is, and what the status of the investigation is, because apparently there was an investigation underway looking into the whole, to the entire situation. Now, Meltzer claims that the investigation has stalled due to threatening legal action and with one person being uncooperative with the investigation. I wonder who that could be. One person being uncooperative. Who, in that list of guys, seems to be the most uncooperative motherfucker in the world? Yeah, that would be Mr. Phil. I suppose it could also be Ace Steel, because the report, because Meltzer claims that nobody has been released yet, even Ace Steel, because they're waiting to see what the investigation uncovers, but I don't know what kind of investigation this is. They hired an independent firm to look into this, but if the investigation is stalled and all this time has passed and they've obviously gotten a lot of statements from people already, what else is there left to investigate? I don't even know. So we'll have to see what comes of this, but if the investigation is stalling due to threatening legal action, maybe this is CM Punk saying, hey, if you fire me, I'm suing you. And maybe they're just trying to figure out what their next move is. I don't really know. But in terms of getting any concrete answers as to what the future holds for the Elite, the Bucks, Kenny, and CM Punk, we might have to wait a little bit longer. And that was something I speculated on right after the show. I'm like, if there are legal proceedings here, there's not going to be any criminal filings because there's no police report. Police weren't called. But there could be civil stuff and contractual stuff and breach of contract stuff or whatnot. And if that's the case, this is stuff that could be tied up in courts for months or longer or years. And it could be a long time before we get any of this hammered out at all. So it might be 2023 before we see any of these guys pop back up on TV. But in terms of AEW and what they got going on, I really just think they need to right this ship as quickly as possible. And if the Bucks and Kenny are all going to come back, get them back in there and take whatever action you needed to take. But based on what Meltzer is reporting here, it could be some time before we get any answers on that. AEW does have some good news. Apparently, Saraya has been cleared, according to Dave Meltzer. She was cleared by AEW's Dr. Michael Sampson. This is not a huge surprise. A lot of people were like shitting their pants today on Twitter. Oh my God, Saraya is cleared. I think we knew that on Wednesday, to be honest. We all watched it together. The first clue was Britt Baker cutting a promo saying, "You're not cleared." So I'm like, well, she probably is then. And then in the segment, the women's segment on Dynamite, we see Saraya get physical, throwing punches, throwing down in the ring, her first physicality in, 5 years in wrestling? I'm like, well, and I said that right on the live stream. I'm like, she wouldn't be throwing punches if she wasn't cleared. So I was like, I think she's going to get back in the ring. And apparently that is exactly what's going to happen. So I think her first match back is going to be huge. It depends on when AEW wants to book that match. Do they want to book, because obviously Saraya is starting a feud with Britt Baker. Do they want to book Saraya in a warm-up, a tune-up match first, get her a win or two before they actually face each other, because Full Gear is coming up? That would be a good place for it. Saraya versus Britt Baker at Full Gear. But maybe Saraya gets back in the ring early on Dynamite or something, and they book the whole thing and promote it as her first match in 5 years. Based on the pop she got in her debut, people still love Paige, man. So even though I think her inaugural segment in AEW wasn't very good. Last week, I guess, was a little bit better in terms of what she did because she did get physical. Her getting back in the ring, I think, is really the only way that Saraya can be an effective asset to any wrestling company, because WWE didn't know what to do with her either when she wasn't wrestling. She was off TV basically the whole time, came in briefly to manage the Kabuki Warriors for no reason, just to do it, just to give her something to do. And I don't like to see talent on screen who is there simply to give them something to do. There's got to be, you don't want to see them. You want to see them on TV and tune in to see them and root for them and that stuff. And when they're just there being a personality, cutting promos, saying this is my house and you can't wrestle, none of that makes any sense. So that's why I had a feeling once Saraya came in that she must be wrestling, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense what she's doing and saying on the mic, unless she was there to, start a faction or something like that, which didn't appear to be the case. So we will see when Saraya gets in the ring for the first time. We will see how she is in the ring. I mean, I don't know when it comes to clearing talent, if it just depends on the doctor. I mean, if Saraya were to go to WWE and look at their doctor, would he have a different opinion? Would WWE's doctor not clear Saraya, but Samson will? Is that how it works? And by the way, every time I see the name Samson, I can't help but to say it like Samson from Half Baked. Samson. So I don't know how all that works. So maybe it was just about finding the right doctor to clear her, but we have seen Bryan Danielson, we've seen Edge, we've seen others with this type of injury or similar injuries be able to come back. And of course, Saraya is dealing with the spinal stenosis, which I know is not good, but the doc says she's good to go. I don't know if she's going to be able to wrestle a lot, but if she's only going to wrestle a part-time schedule, I'll tell you what, AEW is the place for her. They don't run live events, which is where Saraya re-injured herself, right? It was a live event. Sasha Banks kicked her in the head or kicked her in the back of the neck or whatever it was. So, and we see what a lot of full-time talent, how rarely they are on TV. So the lack of TV time for basically all of their stars in this case might actually benefit Saraya, because she's not going to be able to be wrestling every single week. This is somebody that's probably going to wrestle 8 matches a year for the company, at that rate. So a couple on pay-per-view, a few on TV or whatnot. So I don't think Saraya is going to have any sort of a hectic, hard schedule at all. I just hope that she can still compete at a high level, and any sort of ring rust that might be there, she's working through it. Hopefully she's training, she's learning how to bump and all that stuff all over again, and just get herself ready to go, because the last thing I want to see is for Saraya to come back and just stink the place out. I want her to have a good match, and I want her feud with Britt to be good. It should be, on paper, it should be spectacular. Paige versus Britt Baker should be great. There's no reason why it shouldn't. So hopefully when all this gets going and Saraya starts getting more physical in the ring, I'm sure she's going to be doing something else this Wednesday, whether she actually gets in the ring this Wednesday or it's just more physicality. At some point, we are going to get Saraya's return match, and that's going to be great. So best of luck to Saraya. Great news that she's been cleared. Excited to see her back in the ring. Also want to mention this Vince McMahon Vice documentary, which we did hear about last week. We mentioned it last week on the Winged Eagle. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics tweeted out this today, and I quote, "The Vince McMahon 9 Lives documentary airs on Vice Tuesday, October 18th. According to WON, I was also interviewed for the documentary. It's airing in the same time slot as NXT, 8 to 10 p.m. on and a preempted Dynamite on TBS. What the hell does that mean? Oh, I guess I didn't read all of his tweet. I don't even know what that preempted Dynamite shit means. Is there a preemption next week or that week that I'm not aware of on October 19th? Not even sure what the hell that means. Anyway, it's going to be a 2-hour documentary titled 9 Lives on Vince McMahon, and it's I think it's put together by the same folks that maybe did Dark Side of the Ring and stuff. I don't know, but that's going to be fun. Very little news on this because it's already been produced and ready to go and ready to be aired, and we didn't even know it was happening. So I don't know how long this has been in the works and how long they have been conducting interviews and putting this together, but it's ready to rock in just a few days, less than 2 weeks. This thing is going to be airing on October 18th. So that's exciting. And like I said last week, apparently that Netflix docuseries is back on as well. No timetable on that, but apparently whatever Netflix had in the works for Vince McMahon is back on again, and this will be a nice little appetizer to whatever it is that Netflix is going to do. But it's a 2-hour documentary, it looks like, and when it's entitled something like 9 Lives, I would have to assume it's going to discuss how many times Vince McMahon has dodged major bullets. He's had multiple potential career or company-ending scandals that he's somehow survived, and then finally, in 2022, it got him. And he's now out of our lives, and WWE is an infinitely better place because of it. But really interesting to hear and watch that 9 Lives documentary, because like Vince or not, that's one thing that people don't understand whenever I talk about how happy I am that he is gone. They automatically assume that means that I don't appreciate everything Vince did. And it just blows my mind how people's brains can function that way. You can do both. I will always acknowledge and appreciate everything Vince McMahon gave to me as a wrestling fan. He is going to go down in history as the greatest promoter to ever live, and nobody will ever top him. Not Tony Khan, not the next guy to come around, and not Triple H. Nobody. He will be the best of all time, untouchable. He has no equal. And he's done some great shit, but he's also done some terrible shit. And it's okay to acknowledge both. And when Vince McMahon got to be the age that he did, and we're rolling into these last few years here, and the product is so terrible and so stale because everything is relied upon what's going on in that old man's noodle. And it's crazy. He's crazy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't remember anything. He's disgustingly out of touch and astonishingly lazy with the creative, and what he thinks is funny is not. The talent's frustrated. The fans are frustrated. Ticket sales and ratings are in the fucking shitter. And then all of his cock money comes out, all of his hush money, and Vince McMahon's horniness is exposed to the world. He's forced out. Triple H takes over, and now we could start enjoying wrestling again. And I have been so happy as a wrestling fan because of that, but that does not mean I believe that Vince McMahon was useless to the wrestling business. That's absurd to think that. It's okay to acknowledge and appreciate what Vince McMahon did, but also realize it's time for him to fucking go. And I'm glad that he's gone, and I'm even more happy to watch this documentary here in a couple of weeks on Vice. That should be good. Let's preview briefly tonight's Smackdown. There were some rumors floating around today that Zelina Vega could be showing up on Smackdown tonight to be the manager of Legado del Fantasma, who have been rumored to be making their way up to the main roster, even have been advertised for some Mexico dates later on this month. So it seems likely that they're set to hit the main roster. Looks like that is going to be on SmackDown, and that could very well be tonight. Zelina's been sporting a new look. She's got some blonde hair now. She looks fantastic. Got some surgery back in May, and now she's set to return to TV and looks to be a part of, or may be a part of this faction tonight on SmackDown. So let's hope that happens for her. Also, we have, like I said, the Logan and Roman Reigns face-to-face or segment on SmackDown tonight. I would open the show with this if I'm WWE. I think Triple H will, because neither one of these two guys have anything to do with the pay-per-view tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to get a video package at the pay-per-view tomorrow promoting Logan and Roman, but this is still a month away. At Crown Jewel, if these two guys are going to be on the show tonight, you do not close with them. I don't believe it's because when you close with them, you got to be like, tune in tomorrow at the pay-per-view to see what happens. They're not even on the show. So I am opening with Roman and Logan tonight if I am Triple H, and I'm probably closing with the Intercontinental title match, although tomorrow's Imperium and Brawling Brutes match is kind of going to be a curtain jerker or a buffer. It's going to be a very good match, but I don't think it's has as big a stakes as some of the other matches on the show. But it is for the Intercontinental title. Gunther and Sheamus is for the Intercontinental title tonight, so I feel like that should be the main event of SmackDown. So hopefully they will main. Logan and Roman will open up, and of course we also have AEW Rampage and Battle of the Belts going on as well, which I will not get a chance to see. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow during the Extreme Rules review, but likely I won't see much of that before tomorrow. But that leaves us with Extreme Rules. We should predict that now. Before we do, let me just cruise back over here to the chat, knock out the super chats that have been rolling in, and then we will get into predicting the show. Let me see. Who's next? Terry Allen, I got you there. Reese Jones, member for 2 months. Good to see you, my shoot brother. It's nice to see that every match on the card tomorrow has some kind of Extreme Rules stipulation on it for once. Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe last year only had one. And what's funny is every time I do streams, now that I've been doing YouTube for so long, I save all of my project folders. So every overlay you see, all that stuff is all in individual folders and stored away on hard drives. I do that in case I ever need to go back into these folders and pull out any graphics or logos or whatnot. So, sorry, dropped my pen. So last night I'm looking for last year's Extreme Rules folder. I'm thumbing through my hard drives. I'm like, where the hell is it? I'm searching for it. I'm like, Extreme Rules 2021. Where is this stream? I can't find it anywhere. So I go to my YouTube channel and I go all the way back to last year and I see my Extreme Rules predictions. And then I realize that I missed last year's Extreme Rules. Wasn't home to watch it. I must have had to work. Something weird went on and I just wasn't available to watch Extreme Rules. And I think I picked a good one to miss because the show sucked. I never even saw, I know it was Roman and the Demon, right? And they did some sort of a finish where the Demon, fell off the top rope or something, and then Roman beat him. I don't even remember what happened. I don't even think I watched the pay-per-view in full other than a few clips that I saw. So last year, I didn't even see. And I think last year only had one stipulation match on the entire card, a show named Extreme Rules. And this is the type of shit that could be so infuriating about Vince McMahon, is that it didn't even occur to him that a show with this name, should maybe have some more extreme stuff on it. So I'm glad that Triple H has realized that all of these matches should have stipulations. They do, and it makes every match important, and it gives every match a purpose, and it's not a card that's huge. We don't have a 15-match card here tomorrow. We got 6 matches, unless they toss one extra one and add one on SmackDown tonight, which they might. Either way, this is not going to be a long card. And I'm glad that they did this as well, Reese. Steven Scott, appreciate the $5. Good mic work. WWE should add Draymond Green versus Jordan Poole to the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Oh, my God, that would be a bloody affair. Draymond might actually make a pretty good wrestler because he's an asshole. I like him because he went to Michigan State, and I've met him twice, but he's an asshole, man. He's an asshole. What if Draymond Green and Dennis Rodman got in a fight? That would be interesting. Chris Miner, appreciate that. Sup, Greg? Who is your Mount Rushmore of announcers? Oh, fuck. I got to decide this right in the middle. I'm going to go Jim Ross. I'm going to go Gorilla Monsoon. I'm going to go Gordon Soley. And I'm going to go Tony Schiavone. Chris Miner, appreciate the $2. King, JR, Cole, Taz, Ventura, Gorilla, Heenan, Gorilla. Oh, yeah, that's Chris's pick there. Appreciate the $2 from you. The only reason I am omitting Bobby Heenan is because he was a manager. Yes, he was an announcer and a great one, but I think of Heenan as a manager. I kind of disqualified Jesse for that as well. I'm thinking of just announcers that announce only. I'm thinking of JR. I'm thinking of Schiavone. I'm thinking of Soley and Gorilla. Although Gorilla did wrestle, he was really, really old school wrestler, and most fans remember him more for his announcing than his wrestling. So that's going to be my Mount Rushmore. Good to see Max Pokebra in the house as well. Not sure if I gave you a shout out earlier on. Good to see you. Not sure if I said hello to Sunny Man either. But anyway, let's get into Extreme Rules. Tomorrow is going to be a good one. We will be up here live after the show doing a full review of Extreme Rules. The link to tomorrow's review is already in the description. You can go down there, click it, save it for tomorrow, give it a preemptive like, or you can just go right over to the YouTube channel and the video or the stream for tomorrow will be right at the top of the page. And save it for tomorrow night. And like I said, we are live as soon as Extreme Rules goes off the air. 6 matches on tap for this. Let's start with the Brawling Brutes against Imperium in a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. You got to remember, we have Gunther versus Sheamus tonight. That match is going to go live in just a couple of hours, so I'm predicting Brawling Brutes versus Imperium before I know the outcome of Sheamus and Gunther. They already had one IC title match that Gunther won. I think a lot of fans might expect Sheamus to win the title tonight. I think Sheamus deserves it. I think Sheamus is awesome in the ring. I'm loving Sheamus's work. He's, if I ever had questions in my head of whether or not Sheamus is a Hall of Fame worthy star, those have been answered now. He absolutely is. I'm a big Sheamus fan. However, I don't want Gunther losing the title right now. I just don't. I think Gunther is really adding, just much like Bobby Lashley is on Raw. is adding a lot of prestige to that Intercontinental title. If Triple H does, in fact, redesign some title belts and they do give us a new Intercontinental title, I would love to see Gunther be the one to hold that. Although Sheamus has got a lot more equity in the company. He's been there a long time. He could also be the perfect guy to unveil the brand new Intercontinental title. Since it's a championship he's never won, correct? Sheamus has never won the Intercontinental title. So I wouldn't have a huge issue if Sheamus won the Intercontinental title. I wouldn't be screaming and crying or anything like that. But I really like Gunther, and I am in no rush to see him drop that title right now. And especially when you think about on Monday, we might very well see a United States title change on Monday. So that would be weird if we saw IC title change on Friday and then a US title change on Friday, on Monday, unless this is all part of Triple H's, really big hard reset here. Let's crown some new champions. Let's give us some new belt designs, change up our announced teams for the season premieres, and, start running with this. If he decided to do that, hey, I got no issue with that, but I really like Gunther. Think he's a strong champion. Think a guy of his caliber should be holding on to the title longer than he has and should not drop it tonight. So, since I believe Gunther will retain the Intercontinental title tonight, I got to go with the Brawling Brutes tomorrow. I think Gunther will win tonight. And then just based on heel babyface math, that we're all used to, I think that this would be a good way to give the Brutes the win tomorrow in the Donnybrook, giving Sheamus, a little bit of revenge there, even though he came up short in the IC match. One thing I don't see happening is, and again, this is a lot of, 50-50 booking ideas as well. I don't see Gunther winning tonight and Imperium tomorrow, just like I don't see Sheamus winning tonight and Brawling Brutes win tomorrow. I think these have got to be separated. Whoever wins tonight, their team will lose tomorrow. How about that? Let's put it that way. So even though I'm picking the Brawling Brutes, I'm doing that not knowing the outcome of Sheamus and Gunther. So if I'm wrong about Gunther and Sheamus, if I'm wrong about that, and Sheamus walks out of SmackDown as the Intercontinental Champion tonight, then I switch my pick to Imperium. Definitely wins tomorrow. So I guess I gave you two predictions for that one. I just got to wait and see what happens tonight. We have Liv Morgan defending, the SmackDown Women's title against Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match. Wow, Liv versus Ronda. I kind of, want to see Liv Morgan retain, but it's going to be tough for her to do that. They're trying desperately to tell the story about how she's, trying to get tougher. She had that big table senton a couple of weeks ago. She's been not backing down from Ronda Rousey, and this is pretty much the ultimate test for someone like Liv Morgan. Her reign has already lasted longer than I thought it would. She's already survived one match with Ronda Rousey. She also survived a match with Shayna Baszler. For her to survive again, and this being an Extreme Rules match, meaning that you can do whatever you want, there is no way Liv Morgan wins this match unless that girl that Andrade's married to shows up, which I think, what's her name? Greensboro. If Greensboro shows up in this match, I think she could help Liv Morgan retain the title, because the last time we saw Greensboro, Ronda broke her arm, right? So this would be a great time for, of course, I'm kidding, Charlotte is who we're talking about here, for Charlotte to come back. It's an Extreme Rules match, which means everything is legal. You wouldn't even need a ref bump to do any of this. Charlotte could just come out, get her revenge on Ronda Rousey for breaking her arm and writing her off TV all those months ago, and that would then take you into your Ronda and Charlotte feud and keep the belt on Liv. Triple H, hopefully he doesn't feel like Ronda and Charlotte needs the title. I kind of think that it does, because they're clearly the two strongest women in that division, but their issue might be a little too personal to worry about the title. Right now, Charlotte could be out for revenge on Ronda Rousey. She costs her the title. Now Ronda wants revenge on her, and the two of them are so focused on each other, they don't even give a shit about the title, and Liv Morgan can just scamper away with the championship and go wrestle somebody else. So I think that's what's going to happen. The only way I believe that Liv wins this match is if Charlotte interferes, and I think Charlotte will. This would be a perfect time to bring Charlotte back, considering her issue when she left was with Ronda Rousey, and the stars align here in a perfect scenario for Charlotte to come back and get some revenge on Ronda. I don't see how you don't do that here. If Ronda just grabs Liv, puts her in the armbar, taps her out in seconds, wins the title, and then Charlotte shows up and just confronts Ronda and the two of them have a face-to-face, I'm going to be pissed. I think it needs to be way more fun than that. And Charlotte coming back, costing Ronda the match, I think would be a lot more fun than waiting for Ronda to win and then confront her so Charlotte can get yet another championship shot. Now, I know Charlotte will be back in the title picture at some point, obviously, but she can do some shit with Ronda until the end of the year. Until then, and then next year, Royal Rumble, whatever, then you start worrying about title matches for Charlotte again, and I guarantee you at WrestleMania 39 in LA, Charlotte will be in a women's championship match. Whether she's champion or whether she's a challenger, she will be in a women's championship match. There's no way around it. So I'm picking Charlotte to interfere tomorrow and for Liv Morgan to beat Ronda Rousey and retain the SmackDown women's title. The Raw Women's title is also on the line. Bianca Belair defending against Bayley in a ladder match. Now, Damage Control has not been doing it for me. I like all three. Bayley is, of course, fantastic, but I even feel like since her return, there's something missing with her that's not clicking with me the way it did before. I love Io Sky. I love Dakota Kai. But so far, Damage Control isn't wowing me or dazzling me. Now, two of these women are already champions. So if Triple H wants to give Damage Control a fair shot, and just because some fans aren't feeling it yet, maybe we will. You got to remember, none of us felt the New Day either. We all thought the New Day sucked. I sat right here. I don't even think I was on camera back then. But I remember in one of my shows saying something to the effect of, something is not clicking with New Day. Something's missing. Don't know what it is. We like all three of these men. They're all fantastic, but the three of them together aren't getting any reaction from the crowd. Nobody gives a shit. Their promos are not connecting. Something's wrong. And what happened? They turned out to become one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history. Maybe some would put them as the greatest team or faction in WWE history. So Damage Control can get there. Maybe Triple H wants to address the problems before he just scraps the whole damn thing. Because I got a weed whacker going on outside my window right now. And all my windows are closed, so I can't make it any quieter. I apologize if you guys hear any of that. So I think it would be better suited for Triple H to try to make the best of Damage Control, see if he can make it work, fix any issues that might be there before scrapping the whole thing altogether. And I think Bayley is the leader of Damage Control. It would be weird if she comes up short here and she's not a champion while her two, I don't want to say lackeys, but, you know, her two faction cohorts are champions. So since this is a ladder match, there's no rules in a ladder match. You've got Bianca Belair in a position here where you can take the title off of her without pinning her, because nobody wants to see Bianca being pinned right now. It's a great opportunity for them to take the title off of Bianca without damaging Bianca. You can have Damage Control show up in the match and help Bayley win. Bayley can climb up the ladder and grab the belt as Io and Dakota are holding Bianca back. No harm done. It's not going to damage Bianca at all. I'm sure half of Twitter will think she was buried, but that's not reality. It's a perfect way to get the belt off of Bianca without beating her. So I think tomorrow Bayley will win the Raw Women's title and win the ladder match against Bianca Belair, hopefully with some help from her friends. Because I believe on Raw, didn't they take out Asuka and Alexa Bliss, correct? So they were kind of taken out. They may be a non-factor in the ladder match here unless Bianca gets some more help. You know, you got to have Sasha Banks and Naomi in the back of your mind. I don't feel like there's any scenario tomorrow at Extreme Rules that would effectively bring them back, especially if you're going to bring Charlotte back on the same show. I'm not combining those two returns. I'm having Charlotte completely separate from any sort of Sasha Banks or Naomi return. So I don't see Sasha and Naomi showing up tomorrow and being a part of this ladder match in any way. But maybe after Bayley, here's one idea I had last Monday. I tried to tweet it out, but it was too many characters. So let's say tomorrow Bayley wins the ladder match from Bianca Belair, and she gets some help from Io Sky or Dakota Kai or whatever, and she's able to win. And then on Monday, the three of them are in the ring with all their championship belts, cutting a great promo, maybe to open the show, and they're confronted by a returning Sasha Banks and Naomi, who come to the ring. It's Damage Control on one side with all three of their championship belts. It's Sasha and Naomi on the other side, and maybe Bianca Belair comes out to join them. And They set up some more matches later on, but one of the matches they set up is Sasha and Naomi challenging Io and Dakota for their 2 tag team titles. Those are our belts. We gave them away. You guys are just holding them. They're ours. So why don't you give us a championship match tonight for those belts, and we'll see who the best team is. And then in the match, Bayley turns on Io and Dakota, helps Sasha and Naomi win the tag team titles, and that's your new and improved Damage Control. Think about it. Sasha and Naomi, how can they come back as babyfaces? They're going to get huge babyface pops, but the way the story went, they left. Michael Cole, Sasha and Naomi disappointed the WWE Universe. They've kind of set them out to be heels. So it feels like they might have to be heels when they come back. So I kind of think that would be fun if they confronted Damage Control after Bayley wins the title and, Dakota and Io are tag champs, and then Bayley turns on them, helps Sasha and Naomi win the title, and then now that's your new and improved Damage Control. Bayley, Sasha, Naomi, all 3 of them got championship belts. I don't know where that leaves Io and Dakota because their association with Bayley was supposed to help their stock rise. So this whole entire thing is very, very far-fetched. And plus, you could also argue that Sasha is a major star. Sasha, being a tag team champion, in a lot of fans' minds, is a step down for her. She should be right up there with Bayley, right up there with Bianca, right up there with Charlotte and Ronda and everybody else. So that whole scenario doesn't make a ton of sense, but I think it would be really cool if it happened. But in terms of tomorrow, like I said, perfect opportunity to take the belt off of Bianca Belair, and I think Bayley that will be our only title change we see tomorrow because there's only 2 championship matches on the show. We have Karrion Kross taking on Drew McIntyre in a strap match. These 3 matches that I'm about to talk about here, Kross, Drew, Riddle, Rollins, Edge, Balor. I said on Twitter a few hours ago, I feel like Karrion Kross, Finn Balor, and Matt Riddle are playing the roles of Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, and Chris Jericho at Fully Loaded 2000. Those 3 guys had matches against stars that achieved a lot more than them. Most of those stars were older. In this case, it's not really a rookie and a veteran scenario because Balor is 40 years old. But in terms of their position on the card, 3 guys facing 3 other guys that have accomplished significantly more than them. Back at Fully Loaded, all 3 of those guys lost to the more established stars. I don't think that's going to be the case here. In the case of Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre, strap match, this is a win that I think you have to give to Karrion Kross. I think, as is the case with all these matches I'm going to talk about, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Edge can all afford losses to their opponents. I'm not sure if it's the same case the other way around. I don't know what good it does Karrion Kross to have him lose here to McIntyre. I also think that if there's going to be any match where the White Rabbit is revealed, we talked about this the other day. When is the White Rabbit going to come? A lot of people felt like he might reveal himself at Extreme Rules. I think that would be a perfect place to do it if it did wind up happening that way. And if the White Rabbit, which we at this point all assume will be Bray Wyatt, if he returns, is he going to return in a match and interfere in one of these matches, or is he just going to return on his own, maybe separate from everything? I don't know. But if he is going to return in one of these matches, this is one where I feel like he could turn up in the McIntyre and Karrion Kross match. I also think he could turn up in Edge versus Balor as well. But this would be a good one for him to show up in, and a good way to give Drew a loss without damaging him too much, because when it comes to McIntyre, I think Kross needs this win more than McIntyre. I think Drew will be fine after taking a loss. Karrion Kross, after he had that terrible main roster call-up months ago, then getting released, coming back and being rebooked under Triple H's vision, it would be really weird for him to lose here. So even if it takes some help, outside interference, or maybe no interference at all, maybe it's just a straight-up win. It is a strap match, so it's not like it's just a fight and a pin. You do have to slap the corners, I believe. So again, it's a way for Drew to lose without losing, unless there's some weird stipulation here or there's some weird rules in the strap match I'm not aware of. Most strap matches, it's just touch all 4 corners, correct? That's how Eddie Guerrero lost the title. So if that's the deal, much like Bianca Belair, Drew McIntyre finds himself in a situation where he can lose without really losing. You know what I mean? So I feel like Karrion Kross absolutely has to win this match, whether he gets help from the White Rabbit or help from nobody. I think Kross picks up the win here over Drew McIntyre. Edge taking on Finn Balor in an I Quit match. This is a match that I feel like could be the main event. Balor versus Edge. We've heard some reports that Balor is set to get a good push under Triple H's watch, which is great. You don't know what is going to main event. I think five of these matches could main event. The only one I don't see main eventing is Brawling Brutes and Imperium. But you could make a case for either women's match. You could make a case for any of these men's matches too, including Kross and Drew, and including Edge versus Balor, because Edge is already a main eventer. Now, this is an I Quit match, we have to remember, and it's going to be good. It's going to be so good. Edge and Balor. Balor's a guy Edge has wanted to work with even when he first came back in. He made that known. And for Edge at this point, in seemingly his final year in the business, of course, he cut that promo in Toronto a couple of weeks ago saying that he would like to, in a perfect world, retire right there in Toronto next summer, probably August sometime. So if he's got a year left in the biz, this is his time to work with who he wants to work with as many guys as he can, and put over as many guys as he can. I mean, I'm sure this is Edge's way of saying, I got to give something back too before I bounce out of here. I've always been a big Balor fan. This is a perfect way to get him a major win. You get yourself a win against Edge in an I Quit match on pay-per-view, that's a big deal. And, of course, Edge, there's no way the Edge that we know is ever going to say I quit to a basic submission move in the ring. That's not going to happen. Finn Balor, maybe he could if Edge breaks off a chunk of the chair and puts it in his teeth the way he did to Roman Reigns. But I don't really see Edge saying I quit. But Balor has the support of Judgment Day and Dominic and Ripley and Priest. And Edge, seemingly might not have anybody since he's kind of on the outs right now with Rey Mysterio as well, due to what's happening with Dominic. So the way I feel this has to go, even though it's very predictable, and I've mentioned this scenario, I think ever since the match was made, I talked about this scenario. It's an I Quit match. We have not seen Beth Phoenix on TV, although she has been there with Edge a little bit during this deal. And I feel like the best way to get the finish done here is to have the Judgment Day if Beth Phoenix is there. And by the way, if they show her at ringside, if Beth Phoenix is sitting in the crowd prior to this match and they show her, that's your finish. That's going to be a good indicator what they're going to do. I think Balor and Edge should have a really fun, exciting match. And then at some point, Judgment Day should grab a hold of Beth and threaten to tear her arms off unless Edge quits. Or they grab her and stick her head in a chair and they threaten to lop it off or whatever, Pillmanize poor Beth's face if Edge doesn't say I quit. And of course, Edge has no choice. Okay, I quit. You win, whatever. They could also do this with Rey Mysterio. They could threaten to really harm Rey, and Edge sacrifices the match to save his friend. But Rey might be a little lame. I think it might be more fun if it was the wife and if they really wanted to get dark. I don't think Edge would bring his children to a match, a pay-per-view called Extreme Rules, in a match that's an I Quit match where anything can happen and Dad could get seriously hurt. I don't think Edge would bring his children to the show. But if he did, and Judgment Day got their hands on one of the little Copeland daughters, that could be fun too. I mean, it would be dark. It would take things in a much different turn. But then again, Dexter Lumis invaded Miz and Maurice's home when they were gone, and the only people in the house were the kids. So they've kind of already gone in this direction a little bit. Hell, maybe they even do something from Edge's home. Because remember when Rollins broke into Edge's house, drank his milk, put his feet up, took a shit in his toilet, all that stuff? You could have Judgment Day, instead of doing the thing at ringside where they grab Beth or they grab one of his kids and threaten to do something to him, maybe all of a sudden on the screen, this could be White Rabbit related too. Maybe some White Rabbit clues show up and then all of a sudden you see Edge's home, and you see a monster standing there. Maybe it's the White Rabbit, or maybe it's just Damian Priest, or maybe it's Rhea Ripley and Dominic or whatever, and they're in Edge's home next to Edge's family. Edge, you might want to say I quit, or these three beautiful young women right here are going to be in for a real bad day. And Edge is helpless. He's looking on the screen at his home thousands of miles away. maybe 1,000 miles away. Extreme Rules is in Philly. He's in Asheville. Probably 1,000 miles away. Please don't hurt my family, okay? I quit. They can do something like that. At the end of the day, what I think is going to happen is Judgment Day is going to force Edge to say I quit. Edge is not going to voluntarily say I quit. He's going to say it because he has to. And I predict Finn Balor will get the win in the I Quit match. And that leaves us with a match that I think could be the main event, and that is the Fight Pit match. Matt Riddle taking on Seth Rollins. Daniel Cormier is going to be the special guest referee for this thing. It makes sense that this could be the main event because the Fight Pit, I'm assuming, is going to have to be lowered. Not that they can't just raise it right back up, but the Fight Pit might have a few more things that need to be constructed. I know there's like a platform on the top of this thing on the opening of the cage, and maybe the setup is a little bit different. And since you have a big-time UFC star as the special referee in this thing, this could be your attraction match that could be your main event. Now, again, this all hinges on what WWE has planned, who they have planned to go over in what match, and if the White Rabbit is going to make any sort of appearance on the show. If Bray Wyatt is coming back at Extreme Rules, I believe that's the last thing you see. So basically, if Bray Wyatt is coming back, I believe whatever match he's coming back in will be the main event. If he's not coming back in a match, then when he comes back, it will be the final thing you see on the show. I don't think you have the White Rabbit show up in the middle of the card. I just don't. I think the last thing you see on Extreme Rules, if Bray Wyatt is returning, is him. So if he's going to show up in the Cross Drew match, then I think Cross and Drew will main event. If he's going to if he's going to show up in Edge Balor, then I think that will be the main event. But without even trying to factor in the White Rabbit or Bray Wyatt or anything going on there, I'm just kind of predicting these matches one at a time with no real thought of who really is going to be the main event. But this one very well could be. Again, Rollins and Riddle. I think Riddle, much like Cross and Balor, needs this win more than Rollins does. Rollins can handle a loss. Rollins is so high up on the card, he handled 3 losses from Cody like a champ. And I said on Monday, I did not do a Raw review on Monday, but I was live tweeting during the show, when Rollins attacked Bobby Lashley from behind. I was like, that could be a sign, because I believe that Riddle has been on the short end of this feud the whole time. They had to cancel the SummerSlam match, and then Rollins was kicking his ass every single week on TV, and then he beat him at the, whatever the fuck it was, wherever they just were. The Clash at the Castle, that's what it is. And then he beat him at Clash at the Castle. So I figured, and at Clash at the Castle, I tweeted out, Rollins will win this, Riddle will win the blow-off. And then, like, literally 30 minutes after the match, they announced the date and location for Extreme Rules. And I'm like, there you go. There's your next Rollins and Riddle match. That's going to be where it is, and that's where Riddle will win. And I really don't have any different opinion on that. I feel like Riddle has to win this match. Number one, it's a Fight Pit match. He's the one with the MMA experience. Seth Rollins just did a long, detailed interview with Ariel Helwani. One of the things he said is, he goes, I have no MMA training at all. I think he said jujitsu, but he basically phrased it as he has no fighting experience whatsoever. And if that's the case, and he's got basically a fight against Riddle, a guy with a lot of MMA experience, just in a couple of weeks, why the hell would Seth Rollins win this match? Unless he's got something up his sleeve, unless Daniel Cormier is going to come in and maybe do some wrestling. I know they've teased that before. He's a big wrestling fan. I know he's called out Brock Lesnar once or twice. So maybe if Triple H is going to try to work something out with him to maybe come in and do a match or something like that, this would be a good place to set all that up, especially if he has some sort of an issue with Riddle, or perhaps helps Seth Rollins win the match or whatever. That could happen. But I think at the end of the day, Riddle has to win here. And when Rollins attacked Lashley last Monday, I was like, I bet you they're going to give Rollins the U.S. title as compensation for doing yet another job, because I feel like he's got to lose to Riddle here. So maybe for Seth doing that, they're going to put the United States title on him, which I'm not exactly against, but I'm not really in favor of that either, because I love Bob, and I don't want Bob to be dropping any belts right now. Bob's a badass. But since they already did one Seth Rollins and Lashley match, another match that was very easily predicted, I predicted it a week out. I said, Riddle is going to cost Rollins the U.S. title. Now I feel like that might not happen. Now I feel like perhaps Rollins could lose the match, but then after he attacks Riddle and kind of knocks him out, and then goes on to win the U.S. title on Raw, and Riddle's nowhere to be found, or he's not there to help Lashley or whatnot. But I feel like if Rollins loses here, like I expect him to, I think him winning the U.S. title on Raw on Monday is extremely likely, is the way I look at it. Kind of similar to how, I think it was Sheamus. Was it Sheamus that like jobbed out to Drew 3 times in a row and really worked hard to put McIntyre over? And then right after that, he like got a U.S. title shot. And I'm like, oh, that's good. You should reward him for all of his hard work and the banger matches he's been having with McIntyre and stuff. And they did. I think they gave him the U.S. title. So maybe this is similar with Seth Rollins. He's going to be, putting over yet another guy here. He did Cody all those matches, and now he's got to put over Riddle. Even though he did get a win over Riddle already, I feel like they could be gearing up to put the U.S. title on Rollins. So at the end of the day, I got to pick Riddle to win this here. Like I said, Riddle, Cross, and Balor all need these wins much more than their 3 opponents do, and that's why I'm picking all 3 of them to win their respective matches. So just to recap, I'm picking the Brawling Brutes. Actually, I'm picking in the Brawling Brutes versus Imperium. If Sheamus wins the Intercontinental title, I'm picking Imperium. If Gunther retains the Intercontinental title, I'm picking Brawling Brutes. I'm picking Balor over Edge in the I Quit match. Karrion Kross over Drew McIntyre in the strap match. Riddle over Seth Rollins in the Fight Pit match. Bayley to win the Raw Women's title, defeating Bianca Belair in the ladder match. And Liv Morgan, most likely with the help from Charlotte, to retain the SmackDown Women's title over Ronda Rousey. At some point tomorrow, the White Rabbit may show up. At the very least, we're going to get White Rabbit clues. By the way, WWE has signed some horror movie writer, some guy that's pretty well known. I forget his name now, but apparently he was the one primarily in charge of and responsible for the QR codes and that whole storyline, and it has been very well received by management. They're very happy with it. So hopefully more things like this from a creative direction are in WWE's future. So if we are going to see the White Rabbit, who knows where we're going to see the White Rabbit tomorrow to Extreme Rules, but you figured he's got to be factored in somewhere. If not, could be something they're saving for the season premiere of Monday Night Raw. Otherwise, I don't know when you really debut him other than doing it on TV where maybe you advertise it. White Rabbit's going to appear this Friday on SmackDown, this Monday on Raw. Whatever, they could be doing it that way, but I think things are set up pretty nicely for tomorrow. I mean, how many more weeks of clues and QR codes do we need? At this point, it's pretty damn obvious it's Bray Wyatt. If the White Rabbit turns out to be Virgil, I'm going to shit myself, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Bray Wyatt. They're making it extremely obvious to where there's really nothing to uncover. Even on Monday when they were doing the QR code thing, I'm like, I didn't even bother pulling it up. I'm on Twitter. Twitter's going to tell me in 5 seconds what was on the QR code anyway. Plus, it's all leading us to Wyatt, and I don't think they really need to do much more with it. So let's just go ahead and debut him tomorrow, and hopefully maybe even tonight on SmackDown, they might tease that he actually is going to be debuting at Extreme Rules tomorrow. So we shall see. Let me see, knock out the rest of these Super Chats, and then I've got to get out of here. Let me see, who is next? Danny Allmark, kayfabe brother, member for 2 months. Good to see you, man. Would you ever redo your Wrestler's Death documentary you did years ago? As I remember, when you do it, it was good, or would you update it? Danny, I got some news for you, man. It's already in the works. January 2023. I've been working on it for the past, month. So yeah, but I haven't really said much about it yet because I was originally thinking it would be like a holiday release, but I think I'm just going to save it and release it at the beginning of 2023. Great way to start off the year, and it will be near the 10-year anniversary of when I did my first deceased wrestlers video all those years ago, and this is going to be a much better version, much more updated version. I've been doing a lot of research, writing down a lot of notes, and my plan was to begin recording in October. I'm a week in and I've not started recording yet because I'm still formulating the outline and getting everything together, but I'm going to start recording real soon. I'm going to take a couple of months to edit it, put it together, and it's going to be a really nice, fun, long podcast video tribute to be released in the beginning of the year. The cat is out of the bag, thanks to Danny. But we'll be talking about that more later, and the channel members will be getting more detailed updates on that project as we go through. Spectre, appreciate the $5. Hey, Greg, hope you enjoy the show this weekend. I watched a documentary on Benoit on Wednesday. I didn't know many signs there were of him breaking. I don't know what you watch, Spectra, possibly the Dark Side of the Ring on Chris Benoit. Yeah, that's been very detailed. We've talked endlessly about Chris Benoit. And as a matter of fact, Spectre, if you go on my channel and just search Chris Benoit, you'll see several videos, including the Vice Dark Side of the Ring review that I did on Benoit and that whole entire tragedy. Lots of Benoit stuff has been talked about on this channel over the years. Thanks as always, Spectre. Spaz Phoenix is here. $7. Extreme Rules preview and NXT review is up now. Also, happy fiending. Greg, Cat, and Chat. Same to you, Spaz. Go check out Spaz's YouTube channel and his Extreme Rules preview as well. He's chiming in with another 14 below it. Dominic at ringside threatens to unmask his own dad. Edge quits. They unmask Ray anyway. And on the Raw premiere, Judgment Day has a goth lucha mask ceremony for Dominic. I like it. I don't know if I want to unmask Ray or not, but I do need options for how you get Edge to quit. And that's a good one. You threaten to unmask Ray. Edge is somebody that I believe would treat the, importance and the legacy of a lucha mask seriously, and would even be willing to lose a match in order to protect that. The only problem is Ray has technically already been unmasked in WCW. I really wish they wouldn't have done that, but they did. To unmask Ray here at this point in his career, unless it's something he wants to do, unless he wants to take his mask off and speak to the fans and let them see his face before he retires or something like that, then that's Ray's call. But I don't want them to unmask Ray. I'm fine with threatening to unmask him, but the only way I would be okay with unmasking Rey Mysterio is if it was Rey Mysterio's idea. If he went to Triple H and say, hey, I've been wrestling for 30 years, I don't count my unmasking in WCW, but I would like a chance to speak to the fans with my own face, and Triple H like, oh, sure, kid, we'll do it. Then I'm fine with it. But otherwise, I don't want to unmask him just for the sake of doing it. Max Pokebra, appreciate the comment. Member for 2 months. I'm actually excited about WWE pay-per-view. That's a first. Me too. I'm really excited for tomorrow, and that's not something we often see. C number Moonsault, appreciate the $5 from you. One's entire career must be eliminated from history. The Rock, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, Goldberg, or Ryback. That's a tough one. You know what? I was never really a fan of that Rock guy. Let's just get him out of here. If The Rock, if The Rock only had as much charisma as Ryback, then maybe I would keep The Rock around, but we got to get rid of Dwayne. No, I'm kidding, Moonsault. Obviously, the one to go there is Rybitch. See you later, Ryback. That's hilarious. That's one of the funniest questions I've ever got. Appreciate that super chat, Moonsault, and I appreciate you guys being here today. Do me a favor and smash that thumbs up video button on your way out the door, since this is kind of a weird time. Lower audience than usual. Want to try to get these engagements up as high as possible, but I have to head off to work now. So I will catch you guys tomorrow. Immediately following Extreme Rules, we will be up here for a full show review, and we'll talk all about these matches and what exactly we saw, if we have any new champions, and if the White Rabbit showed its face on the pay-per-view. One more from Spectre chiming in before we go. 5 more from you, dude. Are you going to discuss Benoit in your commentary again? I can send you the doc I watched on Twitter if I can figure out to her. No, you don't need to send me anything. I've seen everything, Spectre. I'm very, very well-versed and educated on the Benoit tragedy and what went on there, and I've seen all documentaries that have been released on it, and I'm a scholar, so to speak, on the subject. But yes, I've already decided the first person that I'm going to open with on that whole thing. It's going to Nancy. Nancy's number 1. So we're going to talk about her first, and I'm sure Mr. Benoit will be discussed in that as well. So that is going to be it for me. I got to get out of here. Shout out as well to Clyde Wendell Slater, my man chiming in at the very end. Do what he says. He's a big guy, very strong. If you don't hit the like button, he's going to whoop your ass. So please do what Clyde says. Thanks again for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. Enjoy SmackDown, Rampage, and Battle of the Belts. And we will catch you guys tomorrow night after Extreme Rules for the review. Have a good one.